Mist rolled through the jungle like breath from some vast, unseen beast. Frost clung to the bark of the trees, thin and brittle, melting only where the faint warmth of a hidden figure's exhale touched it. Rafe lay prone beneath a tangle of roots, every inch of him masked in damp moss and woven camouflage. His rifle rested on a bipod carved into the soil, its long barrel rimed with ice. He had not moved in 2 hours. Stillness was survival. Through the scope, the world was sharper, quieter. The lenses cut through fog and distance, outlining the faint shimmer of alien armor. 3 silhouettes moved along the ridge below, officers by their size and insignia bands. They walked with the easy arrogance of creatures, convinced their victory was absolute. Their voices, filtered through translators, were guttural mockeries of human speech. He could not understand every word, but the laughter was clear enough. He adjusted his breathing. Inhale, 4 seconds. Exhale, 6. The crosshair drifted between armored throats, tracing patterns of vulnerability. His suit whispered telemetry against his ear, struggling to keep power. Battery, 9%. He blinked the notification away. There would be no second attempt. He had been Sergeant Rafe Callan once. That name belonged to a man who had trained others, led patrols, trusted command. Wraith was something smaller and simpler, a ghost shaped by purpose and exhaustion. Command had fallen months ago. The last message he'd received had been an automated broadcast repeating the same line. Hold your ground. Reinforcements inbound. They never came. Now, surrounded by alien jungle and memories that bit like frost, he held his own kind of ground. His mission was reduced to a single act. 1 rifle, 1 target, 1 chance to remind the invaders that humanity still drew breath. Below, the officers halted near a cracked human monument. What had once been a weathered flagpole, now stripped of its banner. One of the aliens gestured at it and laughed, the sound like stones grinding underwater. Wraith's jaw tightened. He remembered the flag that used to hang there, blue and white, a symbol of the joint colonies before they burned. The memory flared and then cooled into focus. His rifle was ancient by modern standards, a relic restored from Earth's archives. The others had mocked him for bringing it. Analog death for digital war, his lieutenant had said. But when the alien shields deflected plasma and rail slugs alike, the old rifle still hit like thunder. Physics did not care about pride or technology. A half-inch of copper-jacketed lead traveling at nearly 900 meters per second could still outvote arrogance. He checked the chamber. 1 round gleamed back at him. A handcrafted .50 BMG tipped with depleted uranium, its casing etched with human initials. His squad mate's initials. His fingers brushed the markings once, then returned to the grip. Shifting to .50 BMG, he murmured, voice barely more than vibration. He had planned this moment 100 times in silence. The wind's direction, the refractive shimmer of alien armor under thermal filters, the slope of the ridge and the density of fog that could warp trajectories, all accounted for. Yet beneath the calculation lurked something raw, an ember of fury that refused to die even after months of isolation. One officer stepped forward, raising what looked like a trophy. Through the scope, Wraith saw the glint of metal, human dog tags strung like trinkets. The alien said something, and the others laughed again, louder this time. He could almost hear words forming through the translator. Primitive soldiers. Easy prey. His pulse steadied. Breath in, breath out. The jungle waited with him, vines hanging motionless, droplets suspended in cold air. Somewhere distant, a creature hissed, then fell silent as if it too sensed the shift. He remembered his squad. Alvarez, who never missed. Chun, who sang during reloading drills. Becky, who swore the aliens could smell fear and so learned to laugh in firefights. They were gone now, smoke and ashes on alien soil. He could not bury them, but he could give them this. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle's report was less sound than force. A pressure wave that slammed the jungle into silence. Recoil punched through his shoulder, grounding him in the moment. Through the scope, he saw the first alien's helmet rupture, shards of biometal spinning away like broken glass. The creature stumbled, emitting a liquid scream before collapsing into the mud. The second officer turned, confusion replacing arrogance. Wraith worked the bolt, ejected the spent casing, and chambered another. The metallic click echoed faintly, swallowed by fog. He hesitated only long enough to watch the surviving officers scramble for cover, shouting in a language that could no longer command fear. He had broken something larger than armor. He had fractured the illusion of control they carried like a crown. Smoke curled from the rifle's muzzle. He adjusted position, sliding deeper beneath the roots as the forest began to stir again. Distant engines whined. Drones were coming. That was expected. Everything after the first shot always came faster than memory. He allowed himself a single, slow breath. Satisfaction was dangerous, but purpose was necessary. The mission was not over. He would finish it, or die ensuring its echo reached beyond this jungle. Humanity needed proof that resistance wasn't extinct, that Defiance could still find a trigger. The scope flickered as the power cell finally died. The last thing it showed was the shattered ridge, fragments of alien helmets gleaming like ice under the pale light. Wraith smiled once, briefly, quietly. He touched the side of the rifle, feeling the warmth of the barrel fade into cold metal once more. Contact confirmed. He whispered into the calm, though no voice would answer. Then he melted into the foliage, invisible again, while the jungle filled with the distant howl of engines and the metallic scent of fear. The laughter below had stopped. Smoke hung low across the ridge, turning the jungle into a graveyard of light and shadow. The alien officer's corpse twitched once before going still. The reflective armor plate cracked in two like a discarded shell. Wraith adjusted his position, sliding through the mud with practiced efficiency. Every movement was deliberate, precise, stripped of hesitation. The first shot had drawn blood. The second would draw fury. He knew what came next. Through the canopy, mechanical whirring began to rise. Drones, small but merciless. Their engines thrummed in chorus, triangulating his position. He checked his rifle's chamber. 1 round loaded, 3 remaining in the magazine, each a relic of an old world that refused to die. The alien taunting had ceased, replaced by clipped, urgent commands in a language of clicks and tones. The officers' guards had finally understood what had happened. The humans they mocked had found a way to kill gods. The forest exploded. Blue plasma bolts ripped through ferns and tree trunks, vaporizing whatever they struck. The air stank of ozone and scorched sap. Wraith flattened himself against the soil, counting intervals between bursts. Alien firing patterns followed perfect rhythm, predictable in their efficiency. He had studied that rhythm for months, surviving by memorizing it. Between volleys, he crawled 2 meters forward, his body blending with the roots and moss. He reached a fallen log and pressed his cheek against the damp bark, aligning his rifle's scope with the movement below. A squad of alien infantry advanced in tight formation, armor plates shifting like liquid metal. Behind them, drones cast cones of white light across the terrain. He inhaled once, focused on the squad leader, and exhaled into stillness. The rifle thundered again. The shot passed clean through the leader's visor, carrying fragments of molten glass into the soldier behind him. Both fell lifeless. The return fire was immediate, savage, uncoordinated. The disciplined pattern dissolved into chaos. Wraith rolled into a shallow depression, the soil erupting where he had just been. He could feel the heat of plasma fire on his back, smell the sharp tang of melting earth. He had known fear once, but that emotion had been burned out long ago. What remained was focus, cold, unyielding, and methodical. His AI spotter, a damaged voice module built into his helmet, crackled back to life. Trajectory deviation, 5 degrees west. Enemy closing. 40 meters. It spoke with distortion, half a whisper, half static. Battery critical. He muted it. He didn't need confirmation of what his instincts already told him. He retrieved a small cylindrical device from his belt, a thermal decoy salvage from a down drone. He activated it and tossed it downslope. The device shimmered, projecting a false heat signature. Within seconds, plasma bolts tore into the illusion, lighting up the fog with searing light. Wraith used the distraction to flank left, boots sinking silently into the sodden ground. For a moment, the chaos of battle gave him cover enough to think. He remembered his last conversation with Alvarez days before the unit fell. "They think they're beyond pain," she'd said, "but everything breaks if you hit it hard enough." The memory steadied him. The aliens' arrogance had been their shield. Now it was their weakness. He reached a new vantage point overlooking the ridge. From here, he could see the officer's command skimmer resting amid the roots, its engine pulsing faintly. The alien insignia, painted on its hull, glowed through the mist like a wound. Inside that craft were command circuits, encrypted logs, proof of their vulnerability. Destroying it would cripple their local network. He marked the coordinates and whispered to himself, "Objective updated." Below, alien mechs lumbered into view, towering machines with limbs like insect claws, optics burning blue. Each step crushed the forest floor into steam. He steadied his rifle, calculating range and wind manually. The AI was dead again. He was alone with numbers and instinct. The first mech turned its sensor dome toward him, scanning. He fired at the joint where armor met frame. The shot penetrated, a spark followed by a roar as hydraulic fluid ignited. The mech stumbled and toppled sideways, crushing 2 soldiers beneath it. Another one advanced, firing energy bursts that cut trees in half. Wraith rolled, reloaded, and aimed for its opticore. The recoil slammed into his shoulder, but he stayed steady. The round hit true. The explosion was almost beautiful, a burst of molten shards and blue fire lighting the jungle canopy. He allowed himself one breath of satisfaction before moving again. Every second mattered now. The aliens were regrouping, forming a perimeter, their formation tightening like a noose. He crawled beneath hanging vines and slipped through a curtain of moss into a shallow gully. His breath fogged in front of him, and he pressed a hand to the rifle's warm barrel. He could feel its pulse, like a living thing that shared his will. He whispered names under his breath. Alvarez, Chun, Becky, as if speaking them could lend him their steadiness. Each name was a reason, a reminder. The aliens might command the skies, but they would never understand the kind of loyalty born from shared despair. The ridge shook with renewed bombardment. Plasma fire rained down indiscriminately, setting the jungle ablaze. Trees fell in slow, groaning arcs. Ash drifted through the air like snow. Wraith ducked behind a boulder, the heat brushing his exposed cheek. He could taste metal and smoke. His armor's warning lights flared crimson. He ignored them. He sighted through the scope again, this time toward the largest alien officer, taller, bulkier, bearing insignia etched in silver. The creature barked orders, gesturing toward the tree-line. Even from here, Wraith could sense its fear, the shift from superiority to desperation. He adjusted his scope's magnification until the officer's visor filled his vision. The alien turned, as if sensing the aim. For an instant, they locked eyes through glass and mist. He fired. The shot cracked the silence apart. The alien fell backward, motionless. The troops froze, their formation faltering. Wraith's magazine clicked empty. He lowered the rifle slowly, feeling the tremor in his arms, a mix of exhaustion and grim relief. He watched the ridge burn. Drones circled uncertainly, lacking direction. Alien soldiers retreated toward the smoldering skimmer, dragging their wounded. Humanity's defiance had carved itself into their memory. Wraith remained motionless until the forest quieted again. The smoke thinned, revealing the shattered remains of armor and machinery strewn across the ridge. He had survived another hour, another impossible fight. The thought brought no pride, only purpose. They thought humans needed armies. He murmured, voice hoarse against the static. We only needed one good rifle. He began to move again, disappearing into the wreckage and flame, a shadow among the ruins, already preparing for whatever came next. Rain began to fall over the ridge, slow and deliberate, as if the sky itself mourned the silence left behind. Steam curled from charred roots and shattered armor, mingling with the mist. Wraith crouched among the wreckage, his rifle balanced across his knees, its barrel cooling in the damp air. The battle had ended hours ago, but he remained alert. The jungle never stayed quiet for long. The alien corpses lay twisted in unnatural repose, their luminous blood seeping into the earth. Above them, drones flickered and died, their energy cells exhausted. He could smell the metallic tang of victory, sharp, fleeting, unsatisfying. He scanned the clearing through the cracked scope. The alien command skimmer, once a beacon of authority, now smoldered with intermittent flames. The circuitry within it pulsed erratically, its systems failing. Inside that wreckage was the proof he needed. The data core holding command frequencies, shield codes, and records of their losses. He had risked everything for that core. Humanity needed more than vengeance. It needed information, a reason to fight again. He moved with quiet precision, crossing the soaked ground. Each step left a faint print that rain quickly erased. His armor was battered, its camouflage coating peeling away, but it still kept him hidden from the skimmer's failing sensors. When he reached the craft, he pried open a panel with his knife and pulled the glowing core free. The light shimmered across his gauntlet, painting his hand in alien blue. He stared at it for a moment, an artifact of their power, fragile in human hands. He activated his comm unit. Static hissed before a faint signal responded. "This is Outpost Echo 5, identify." The voice was wary, exhausted. Wraith steadied his breathing before answering. "Wraith, operational. Ridge secured. High-value targets neutralized. Data core retrieved." Silence followed, then a crackle of disbelief. "We thought you were gone." He smiled faintly, though no one could see it. "Not yet." The transmission cut, replaced by an automated link-uplink sequence. He slotted the data core into his transmitter and waited as the signal uploaded to orbit. Lightning flashed across the clouds, illuminating the jungle canopy in stuttering intervals. The hum of the uplink echoed like a pulse. When the upload finished, a single confirmation tone sounded. "Mission complete." He should have felt relief, but all he felt was weight, the crushing quiet after violence. Around him, the jungle began to move again. Small creatures emerged from hiding, reclaiming the silence that war had borrowed. He envied them. He sat beside the fallen skimmer, resting his head against its scorched hull. For a moment, exhaustion caught up with him. His muscles trembled. His hands ached from recoil and cold. He thought of Alvarez, Chun, and Becky, not as ghosts, but as people laughing around a campfire, arguing over rations, dreaming of a world untouched by invasion. That world felt impossibly distant now, yet their memory grounded him. A faint rumble drew his gaze skyward. Through the breaks in the clouds, he saw light. Alien dropships descending in formation. Reinforcements. His time had run out. The ridge would soon be swallowed again by enemy presence. He checked his rifle. 2 rounds left. Enough to make his final choices matter. He considered retreat, but something inside him refused. The transmission was away, his purpose fulfilled. But survival without meaning was hollow. The aliens would search for the source of the interference, and when they found the destroyed skimmer, they would erase every trace of what had happened here, unless he ensured they couldn't. He rose, ignoring the protest in his knees. His movements were deliberate now, ritualistic. He gathered what remained of his explosives, setting charges along the ridge, under fallen trees, inside the wreckage, near ammunition crates. Each placement was careful, methodical, born from years of soldiers' instinct. As he worked, thunder rolled above, masking his steps. When he finished, he returned to the ridge's edge. From here, he could see the expanse of jungle stretching to the horizon, dark and endless. He remembered Earth's forests, greener, quieter, filled with life untainted by war. He imagined them again, whole and free. It was a fragile image, but it steadied him. He checked his rifle one final time. The weapon was scarred, its scope cracked, its frame streaked with ash, yet it had never failed him. He whispered to it, the way soldiers once prayed to their weapons. You did good. He aimed it toward the sky, tracking the approaching dropships through the mist. The first was already descending, its engines tearing at the canopy. He pressed the trigger halfway, feeling the familiar tension. You laughed at us once, he said softly, voice steady despite the exhaustion. Let's see if you're still laughing. He fired. The shot found the ship's intake port, and a moment later, the sky erupted. The dropship exploded midair, fragments raining down like burning glass. The shockwave rippled through the jungle, setting off the charges he'd planted. One by one, explosions rolled outward, devouring the ridge in fire and light. Wraith dropped to one knee, shielding his face from the blast. Heat surged through the air, hot and fierce. He felt the concussion in his chest, a heartbeat that matched his own. When the echoes faded, nothing remained of the ridge but smoke and ruin. He exhaled slowly, lowering the rifle. Around him, the rain began again, hissing against the embers. The sky glowed faintly orange from the burning debris overhead. He activated his comm once more, his voice little more than a whisper. For Earth, shifting to .50 BMG. Then he shut it off, letting silence reclaim the moment. Minutes later, distant engines broke through the storm. A human dropship emerged from the clouds, hovering cautiously above the devastation. Its searchlights swept the ground, finding only scorched soil and fragments of alien steel. The pilot's voice crackled through the open channel. No sign of the sniper. Area clear. The rain fell harder, washing away footprints, blood, and ash. On the ridge, only the rifle remained, half buried in mud, its metal darkened but unbroken. The light caught on its barrel, gleaming like a promise. High above, the human ship lingered before turning toward the horizon. The jungle closed over the wreckage, and the smoke thinned until the forest looked whole again. Yet the silence it carried had changed, deeper, prouder, edged with something eternal. The aliens would return, but so would the humans. Somewhere, in the static between stars, a message was already spreading. One soldier, one rifle, and the echo of defiance that refused to die.